Hey guys. Hello, hello. Welcome to tonight's live. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. It's nice to see the chat's filling up. That's nice. I feel like this is kind of down a little bit further tonight, but that's okay. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Live, Sunday Night Live. If this is your first time here, I'm Tanya or TitaniumBuilt. A lot of times I forget to introduce myself. I do that pretty much every live. So if you don't know who I am, just always holler and say, "Who are you, lady?" And I'll let you know. I don't know why I just assume people know me. Well, there's Wist. It's been a little while, I feel like, Wist, since I've seen ya. I'm glad you're here. I saw back when my BS was in here. Everyone's in here. Jan's here. Carrie's here. Lady V. It's good to see everybody. If you guys appreciate tonight's case coverage, hopefully you'll decide to subscribe to the channel and like the video. If you don't like the video, like if you hate this content, give it a thumbs down so I can at least improve. So I know to improve because, all publicity is good publicity, they say. Oh, West, then you've been gone for a little bit then. I know there's so much stuff about Summer. I feel like with the Summer Wells case, I feel like there's just so much going on that I can't even catch up. It's one of those things. Hopefully there's going to be a good outcome. I mean, an outcome for that little girl. But I did hear some stuff about the parents. I follow, like, when I listen to Brooks a little bit here and there in the mornings when I'm cleaning. So if you guys would like to become a member, I will put the channel membership in the link, or the link in the chat for you guys. It's a great way to, support the creator, support the channel, and you get exclusive content, members only videos, and emojis and stuff. So it's always a good thing. It's always a good thing. So we'll go ahead and get into tonight's live. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to put, whoops, I just accidentally went to I didn't mean to do that. I went to my second channel. I was going to put my channel link. This will be, if you guys want to subscribe to my second channel, we're going to do something fun over there. I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. I'm still like debating on what to do because I don't want to like make it and then want to like switch what it is, so if you guys have any ideas, also throw them at me. But I'm thinking we could do maybe like current events or something. I don't know. But we'll think of something maybe a little more lighthearted because like a lot of the cases that we cover, they're so heavy over here. So, well, that's okay, West. We'll forgive you this time because you're a ride or die girl though, West. She's been in the chat with me sometimes that it was like I know you were here like all 8 hours when we were streaming some of the trials, so. And it was long and they were long. So I appreciate it. Hey, PKC, welcome in. Oh, it's Rose Love the channel. Oh, hello, Rose. And welcome in, everybody. It's good to see you all, you guys. I was going to come on earlier, actually, because I was bored. I was bored out of my mind today. Like, I was having a boring day. But then my tooth was kind of bothering me. So It's not doing it now. And I was just like, oh, am I going to be able to go live? Am I not? But I am. I'm good. And I also have this stuff. So I'll show it to you. I took your guys' advice, but it's like clove oil. So I've got like these cotton like balls. And I guess if you put that in on your like on your tooth for a minute, it'll stop hurting. So we'll see. If it hurts, I'll do it. But I was like, I don't want to put that in my mouth if I don't have to. So I hate doing any kind of medications if I don't have to. So let's go ahead and discuss Ruby Franke tonight. It's been a little while since we've discussed this person. It's actually been a month since we've talked about this case, and there are a few updates since we've previously talked about her. So if you're not familiar with what's going on or with this case, I'm going to go ahead and read through a timeline. That way we'll get all caught up to where we are now. Well, not all the way now, but you know what I mean. I can look into that, Rose. Yeah, if you guys ever want me to look into a case, if you ever want to send anything to my email at TitaniumBuiltBoo@gmail.com, I definitely will always look over them. I always like go right over to them and like look them up. So this one here is just an article that I gathered. I normally will put together a timeline, but I haven't got a whole timeline together for this case yet. But this is Ruby Franke case, a timeline of events. So Ruby Franke and her business partner here, pictured here, Jody Hildebrandt, were each charged with 6 counts of child abuse in August. Here's what happened before and since. And if you're not familiar with Ruby Franke, she had a channel with her husband called 8 Passengers with their 6 children. But it'll give you guys some background in this article as well. Utah parenting advice YouTuber Ruby Franke and her business partner Jody Hildebrandt were arrested on 6 felony accounts each of aggravated child abuse on August 30th. And we read through their arrest affidavit before the court sealed all of the proceedings and everything, like all the paperwork is all sealed up because there's children involved. So before they did all that, we were able to read those. Before their arrest, neighbors of Franke shared concerns with the Utah Division of Child and Family Services about her children's welfare. And Hildebrandt, a licensed clinical mental health counselor, was previously disciplined by state regulators. I don't even know how she got a license to begin with. Franke and Hildebrandt's beginnings, Ruby Franke launched a parenting advice YouTube channel in 2015 called 8 Passengers. The channel garnered more than 2 million subscribers at its height and was named for Frank. I call her Frank, but I think it's Frankie, her husband, Kevin, and their 6 children. So don't come for me. I keep wanting to call her Frank because the E should be silent, I thought. And I've heard other creators call her that before this case was in the headlines. So now that's just what I keep saying. So if I say it wrong, I'm sorry. It says, but the channel grew controversy for Frankie's parenting decisions. In a 2020 video, one of Frankie's sons said he was forced to sleep on a beanbag for months as punishment for his prank on a sibling. He literally pranked his little brother. And we're not going to say just Ruby, because Kevin was right beside Ruby when this was all going down. So he is just as culpable. They both made that kid sleep on a beanbag chair for 7 months. And it's crazy to me because all he did was wake his brother up and say they're going to Disneyland. He could have done so much worse than that. You know what I mean? I think he was 16 at the time. And he's growing, and he's a growing kid, and you're going to have him sleep on a beanbag chair. I couldn't even imagine that. I couldn't imagine doing that at my age now, let alone when I was a kid. Yeah. And the thing of this is people were bringing this to people's attention. That's the crazy part. I've heard about this family before they were even in the public eye, only because of her and Kevin's actions and the way they discipline their children. That's the only reason why I knew who they were. I didn't know about 8 Passengers or the Family Channel or anything. Because I only watched at the time I only watched true crime. Other than, a couple little celebrity channels. That's what I got it off of. But it says here that in another, Frankie said she refused to bring food to her then 6-year-old daughter at school who had forgotten to bring it that day. Yeah, she did that. That's damn. And she said she knew the teacher was going to feel like uneasy. Well, no, your daughter's probably going to feel that way too. And yeah, she's a grown adult and she's looking at a kid that's hungry. She's going to be a little uneasy. The account was deleted in 2022, the same year Franke and her husband separated, but Franke then began working on a new channel with Hildebrandt. The channel hosted videos from an online self-improvement program that Franke and Hildebrandt ran together called Connections, based out of Ivans. It's unclear how the two met, but Hildebrandt had been a licensed clinical mental health counselor since 2003, according to Utah Division of Professional Licensing. I bet they probably are regretting doing that. She first acquired her associate clinical mental health counselor license in May of that year and became a licensed clinical mental health counselor in July 2005. Wonder what you got to become a licensed clinical mental health counselor. I wonder what kind of schooling you have to have for that. Like, if any extensive schooling, I wonder. On September 19th, Hildebrandt voluntarily surrendered her counseling license in light of the felony child abuse charges filed against her. The move essentially limited her ability to practice in any way until her child abuse case is adjudicated and a disciplinary investigation is conducted. The surrender was not considered a disciplinary action, and Hildebrandt was able to consult with an attorney before doing so, a stipulation and order regarding the surrendered states. The division has not issued a finding of unlawful conduct. Hildebrandt's limited license is listed on her Division of Professional Licensing page under Agency and Disciplinary Action. In 2012, Hildebrandt was put on probation for 18 months after she allegedly discussed a patient with his leaders in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and Brigham Young University without his permission. In those conversations, the patient said Hildebrandt accused him of having serious problems, but never actually diagnosed him or spent enough time with him to do so. That lady's just, I don't even know what to say about her. I don't even know who would give her a license. But I mean, man, maybe people need to take a mental health evaluation themselves before they are in the mental health field. But before she surrendered her license in September, Division of Professional Licensing Records stated that Hildebrandt had received no disciplinary actions. That's likely because, according to Utah law, state websites with public access to professionals' disciplinary records must remove a record after 10 years have passed unless otherwise required by federal law. So I guess it wouldn't have been on there. Professionals may also petition that a disciplinary record be removed once 5 years have passed since a final disciplinary order was issued. The statute says. Wow. So they can just, okay. I think that's Kevin Franke there and his attorney leaving court. And I have a lot to say about him. Ruby Franke and her husband, Kevin, first moved into their Springfield home in January 2020. A neighbor told the Salt Lake Tribune. The neighbor said that initially the Franke children interacted with the local church community and befriended other kids in the area. But over the years, they were eventually pulled out of school. And after Kevin Franke moved out of the home around August 2022, the neighbor observed Franke's 4 youngest children were repeatedly left at home, she said. So they just left the kids at home, left the kids. Okay, so this was August 2022. They separated July of 2022. So you mean to tell me within a month, Ruby's just leaving the kids at home by themselves, and Kevin, they weren't doing that together when Kevin was there? I think not. I think they were both probably doing it. That's not something she's going to pick up within a month of her husband leaving or them being separated. Because I was writing down some dates earlier. So yeah, they were separated in July. The Franke's eldest child, Shari, is a student at BYU. Shari said in an April podcast that she cut ties with her family in 2022 after her mother began working with Hildebrandt on Connections. And I remember hearing about that like a while back. Following her mother's arrest, Shari posted a picture of police officers to her Instagram story with the caption, "Finally." In a subsequent post, she has said she's glad that justice is being served. Kevin Franke's attorney, Randy Kester, told the Tribune that Kevin moved out when he and Ruby separated. Kevin has since moved back into the family home and is currently seeking custody of the 4 children placed in state care upon Ruby Franke's arrest. Ruby Franke remains in custody in Washington County, where she is being held without bail. That makes me smile because she doesn't need to have any bail. She has the money, you know. If they gave her a bail, she would be able to get out. Authorities responded to Franke's Springfield home numerous times over the years since regarding the welfare of her children, according to Springfield Police Department records. On April 16th, 2022, so same year, you know, that they separate, right before they separate, a caseworker from the Division of Child and Family Services alerted authorities that 2 unsupervised children were running in a street near Franke's home. The caseworker had an officer drive out to the area, but he did not see any children in the street when he arrived, according to police documents. Should have looked for a camera. Because, I mean, that she probably just hurried up and grabbed them. The most recent response on September 18th, 2022 was for a welfare check requested by Shari Franke, who told police that her sisters and brother had been left home alone for 5 days while their mother visited a friend in St. George. She wanted officers to check on the children and make sure they had enough food for the extended period, police records state. When officers arrived, the children would not answer the front door. Neighbors told responding officers that Ruby Franke often left the children home alone. Police ultimately left the area after an hour or two, the neighbor who spoke with the Tribune said. The Tribune is not identifying the neighbor to protect the family's privacy. However, she has been named in police records and the Tribune verified her identity. In a report, officers wrote that Central Intake was contacted but did not specify whether the Division of Child and Family Services was involved. The report also did not state the outcome of authorities' response to Shari's call. After that response, the Franke's home blinds were always closed and what appeared to be paper was placed over the windows, the neighbor said. That's weird. The neighbor had separately spoken with DCFS twice in 2022 about Franke's children because she was concerned that they were being left alone for long periods of time and she did not know if they had access to food and care. I was looking for, what are the rules here, the neighbor recalled. In that first call, an agency staffers she spoke with cited Utah's landmark free-range parenting law. What's that? Okay, look, we're going to find out. Utah in 2018 became the first state in the country to pass free-range parenting law, which changed the state's definition of child neglect. The legislation added a section to state code explaining that a child whose basic needs are met and who is of sufficient age and maturity can engage in independent activities without it being considered child neglect, such as walking, running, or biking to and from school or being home alone. What age, though? Oh, the law did not specify what a sufficient age is. Well, they should. You're not going to leave a 5-year-old at home just because they're a little smart. They can go to the bathroom by themselves. They can ride a bike. This is a horrible law. I thought it was going to be okay, but it's kind of bad. It says the law did not specify what a sufficient age is and only greenlit those unattended activities so long as kids were adequately fed, clothed, and cared for. The neighbor said she worried about whether the children were being regularly fed, but told DCFS that she never saw the children hurt. The agency staffer told the neighbor that unless the children left alone were hurt, DCFS could not necessarily intervene. Well, if they're hungry, yeah, they can. A few days later, though, the neighbor received a follow-up call from DCFS after a different neighbor who similarly reported concerns for Franke's children. The neighbor again discussed her concerns, but was left with the understanding that DCFS would not act. Springfield police records also detailed 2 reports of stalking and harassment that Ruby Franke's filed in 2022. And I'll tell you about that in a little bit. Franke believed that individuals watched her 8 passengers YouTube channel, the records state. Franke and Hildebrandt's August 30th arrest came after Franke's 12-year-old son escaped Hildebrandt's home in Ivins, which is outside of St. George. A neighbor called the police because the boy appeared now malnourished and had duct tape on his ankles and wrist. Responding officers said they found Franke's 10-year-old daughter also appearing malnourished inside Hildebrandt's home. The 2 children were taken to a hospital for medical treatment, court documents state. That's when they and 2 of Franke's other 2 children were placed into state care. Now, I have a video tonight to show you where they were found. Franke and Hildebrandt are accused of causing or permitting serious injury to Franke's 2 children who are hospitalized in 3 different ways: through a combination of physical injuries or torture, through starvation or malnutrition that jeopardizes life, and by causing severe emotional harm, according to Washington State or Washington County Attorney's Office. Those 3 alleged forms of abuse for each of the 2 children amounted to the 6 aggravated child abuse counts that Ruby Franke and Hildebrandt each face. Each count carries a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison and a fine of up to $10,000. The 2 women were scheduled to appear in court virtually from jail on September 8th, but before the hearing began, more than 1,000 people had piled into a planned live stream of the proceedings, overwhelming the system. Some attendees shouted profanities, argued, or played music before they were removed. I didn't see any of that. I don't know if you guys did. The delayed hearing eventually started 45 minutes late, during which 5th District Judge Eric Gentry announced that Franke and Hildebrandt would remain held without bail until their next scheduled court appearance. Search warrant records released weeks after their arrest revealed that Franke's 12-year-old son appeared to be emancipated when officers responded on August 30th. And like I said, we did read over the whole PCA and stuff on one of our lives. First responders also found open wounds under the duct tape on his wrist and ankles. The boy told authorities that they, seemingly to reference his mother and Hildebrandt, had used cayenne pepper and honey to treat them. Items confiscated from Hildebrandt's home included 2 pairs of handcuffs, a bowl with red liquid, a metal spoon inside, tape, saran wrap, at least 3 ropes, and absorbent dressings and bandages, among other things, the records state. 2 days before Franke's 12-year-old son escaped, a video posted to YouTube depicted Franke in Hildebrandt's home, according to court documents. Investigators considered the footage evidence that Franke had recently been in the Ivins' home and knew about the apparent abuse, according to probable cause statement. She just couldn't stay off the YouTube. She would have stayed off the YouTube. She could have been like, I wasn't there. I don't know what's going on, but dummy. Inside Hildebrandt's bathroom, investigators also found used gauze, which they considered evidence that Hildebrandt knew about the apparent abuse, the statement noted. Can't wait to see their Google searches if we ever get to. On September 18th, the women were scheduled to appear in court for a status review hearing, but that hearing was postponed until October 5th. Attorneys have requested the delay, citing additional time needed to review copious amounts of discovery, a Utah State court spokesperson advised. And as of now, they had a court date, I think on the 5th, but they don't have anything scheduled as of now, it says. So that's kind of strange that they don't have anything scheduled. And welcome in, everybody. Sorry, I was reading, so it's hard to see the chat when I'm reading, but welcome in. If you guys don't mind just clicking that like button real quick, we'll just get this out into the algorithm, maybe. Check our iCloud for files you deleted. Well, oh, that's sweet. Lori said she's late, trying to catch up. Oh, okay. But I have some videos I wanted to show you guys too. So, like I said, the court sealed everything because of the children, being minors, which I totally understand that. I mean, we all know who they are, but sealing those things, I guess it's pretty important. At least, I guess, for the time being. I do hope that Shari gets the kids. I really hope that they don't give those kids back to Kevin. I really hope. I don't think they're going to. I really don't. That would be surprising to me because of what evidence is out there of him just abusing them just as, that's just, you're not physically like touching them. Like in these videos, they don't look physically hurt, but emotionally, mentally, can only imagine what those kids were thinking. So the first video I wanted to show you guys here was this video that Law and Crime did. They had went and talked to Ruby Franke and Kevin Franke's public defender, is what I'm saying. Private investigator. So they had gotten a private investigator. I think it was back in like 2020. They hired this guy because they wanted people to stop threatening them. or harassing them. It was harassment, they were saying. The harassment, though, was that they were getting sent like magazines and stuff that they didn't want. Like people were signing them up for subscriptions and stuff. Like it wasn't even that big of a deal, but they like hired a PI and everything for it. They were like, so heaven forbid something happened that's like remotely towards them, you know, them as the meaning the adults. Then she was like, no, we got to get a private eye. We got to talk to someone. I just think that's a little ironic. So I'm going to play this episode here and then we'll talk in the chat as it goes on. And I might pause it just for, you know, for us to talk here and there. And then we'll watch some new body cam footage that just came out that has me like kind of livid. So thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Online who hate me, who would like to cancel me, who would like to see me either burn in hell, as I have told, or disappear off the face of the earth. And I'm not going anywhere.
Ruby Franke, the once famous YouTube mom, now accused of abusing her own children, claimed that her family was being harassed by angry followers, and her family hired a private investigator. We sit down with that PI, David Corrington, to understand what happened. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. You've likely heard about the Ruby Franke case by now, especially if you've been following us here on Sidebar. The Utah mom of 6 faces multiple felony child abuse charges, and this came after her 12-year-old son escaped a residence belonging to Franke's business partner, Jody Hildebrandt. He was emaciated, he had open wounds, and after he ran to a neighbor's house who called 911, authorities discovered the boy's 10-year-old sister in Hildebrandt's home as well in very similar condition. There was evidence to suggest that the boy had been tied down as well. So Hildebrandt, Franke, they were taken into custody. They were both charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse. By the way, each count carries up to 15 years in prison. And 2 of her other children were found by authorities in the care of a colleague of Franke's. They were taken into state custody. The couple's other 2 children are adult children. But let's back up a second. So back in 2015, Ruby and her husband, Kevin, they started a YouTube channel called 8 Passengers. And the devout Mormon couple chronicled their family's lives online. Franke often gave advice about parenting and childcare, homeschooling, and marriage. But some of her parenting techniques seemed to a lot of people to go too far. And in 2020, the 8 Passengers channel posted a video of Franke's then 15-year-old son talking about a punishment he had to deal with.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months and then you give it back like a couple weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
You were sleeping on a beanbag.
I was sleeping on a beanbag since October. My room back like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's in my head. It's pretty funny, but now that I look back, it's pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in the suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he was like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on. And I was like, we're not going to Disneyland. And he started crying and hitting me. And then he went back to bed in tears. And then
So that was not the reason you lost your room, but that was
the other reason is because I pointed a BB gun at his face.
Pointed a BB gun at his face and hung him on the basketball. basically, Chad.
Like the day I got home too.
Chad came home from Anasazi and
Russell was like, I want to try dunking the basketball, and I lifted him up on the rim. And left him there. We saw 3 minutes, and he was just hanging on there.
Do you think it's funny? Because
and then I walked out.
If you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
It was not funny.
Chad showed that he was not able to manage himself sharing a bedroom with Russell.
So when we moved, the bigger room in the basement was automatically his, and I didn't have a room, but we like put one on hold for me.
So a lot of you are like, hey, that's not fair.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stop that for a second. Why would you, if you guys are moving into a new house, give the bigger bedroom to the youngest son? That makes no sense to me. Like, you would think that you would give that to your oldest child. Like, it's a basement bedroom. No one wants to sleep in the basement but teenagers. Like, teenagers love them a basement, but not like okay, so he's 9, or wait, 12 now. He would have been like 9 years old then. Who wants to sleep in the basement when they're 9? That's scary. That's scary. I don't believe that.
Because Chad got the lesser bedroom, and Russell got the bigger bedroom. Russell got the big bedroom, and Chad got the smaller bedroom. And Russell's bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything.
Oh, wow.
He was sleeping on the floor in the family room.
Now, that video, to our understanding, was later taken down, but viewers who watched it were very concerned. Eventually, a change.org petition was started calling Franke an abuser. Child Protective Services ended up going to the home to check things out, but the case was eventually closed. Franke stopped posting to the 8 Passengers channel last year, and YouTube removed it altogether earlier this year, although a reason wasn't given. We want to thank Morgan & Morgan, the largest injury law firm in America, for sponsoring this video. Now, and Kevin Franke hired David Corrington, a private investigator and retired special agent with the Department of Homeland Security. Hired him back in 2020. And Corrington told People magazine that members of the family were receiving kinds of threats and harassment, and someone even showed up in the middle of the night. Well, David Corrington joins me right now to talk about what he found. David, thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. We appreciate it.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Now, my understanding is you're in the public sector now, but you were hired as a private investigator for the Frankes a few years ago. How did you first get linked up with them?
So actually, I was referred to them by, I had done several other stalking threat type cases through several other platforms or individuals that were influencers or high profile YouTubers that had also received several threats and those type of things. So that I had never met nor known them before. So this was the first time when they called me that I had spoke to them and learned of their situation.
So you didn't know anything about their YouTube channel or anything like that?
Never heard of 8 Passengers before they called me. So
okay, and so you meet them. What did you think of them when you first met them?
So it was most of my interaction was actually with Kevin.
Okay,
and genuinely, Kevin was concerned about the safety of his family. So that was really the focus of my case initially, was to try and understand not only who was making the threats, but kind of try and dig into maybe why they were making the threats.
What was your impression of Kevin when you first met him?
Seemed like, genuinely nice guy. I felt like he was genuinely concerned for the safety of his family, which clearly he was willing to pay money. He was frustrated with law enforcement, didn't feel like they were doing enough to take it seriously, which is why he reached out to me to see if I could help maybe get that process rolling a little bit quicker.
So did you have any communication with Ruby Franke? I know you said it was mostly with Kevin, but did you speak with her at all?
So there was one of the initial conversations was with her and Kevin, but most of my interactions after that was just with Kevin.
What about the kids? Did you have an opportunity to meet them, to talk to them at all?
No, I actually had tried to set up a meeting inside the home, and Kevin said he didn't want to do that. So we just kept everything over the phone.
Did he say why he didn't want you to come to the home?
No, he didn't.
Let's talk about some of these threats. What kind of threats are we talking about here?
Well, there were, several. We had some individuals that were basically, it was more of a harassment where they were signing up subscriptions in their name, pretending to be Ruby and Kevin. And so then they were being inundated with these emails or phone calls saying, hey, thanks for signing up or joining up. Then there was the individual that rang the doorbell in the middle of the night, which we were able to capture on camera. And we were actually able to capture vehicle, but no license plates, and we weren't able to identify them.
Okay, a couple of things there. Let's go back to so you're saying people in their name would subscribe them to like random websites and services, and then the real Frankies would get inundated with calls and emails?
Exactly.
Did you ever find out who those people were or why they were doing it?
So I was able to trace the IP addresses back, and working with law enforcement, I basically provided my entire report to them. Being that I'm no longer in law enforcement, I don't have subpoena powers and have limitations as a private investigator of what you can and can't do. So I had encouraged them to subpoena these companies to be able to identify where these IP addresses were coming from. I do not know. They were not super forthcoming in terms of what they were doing on their investigation, but I did receive information towards the end that the district attorney's office had declined to prosecute the case. And that's really how we ended it, is I let the Frankies know that, listen, I've done everything that I can at this point to basically gather and provide the information. I did go over some safety, security issues, things that they could do additionally to protect their family.
What kind of what kind of subscriptions were they signing them up for?
Just random things, and sorry, this happened a few years ago. So
yeah, was one of them for plastic surgery?
That actually does sound very familiar.
Okay.
It was like that. Just, I think just people that were just trying to, again, that's more in that harassment, right, element.
Right.
Which, I've actually had other clients experience similar things like that, where they'll just, people will show up at their house, saying, "Hey, I'm ready to get a quote," or, those type of things. And it's, basically falls in the harassment category.
What about emails or angry text messages from people? Were they receiving those as well?
Yeah, I mean, once I got into the case, I wanted to understand what was making everybody so angry. So
Right.
I did start reviewing all of the video content that they were posting. And, there was a lot of people out there alleging that, some of what they were posting, was child abuse and was wrong. And they even had this petition online that they were signing to get CPS involved. And so, there was a lot of that out there. And so that kind of gave me a little bit more context as to, what was garnering some of this anger towards them.
Did you ever, first of all, what did you think of it, their videos? And did you ever confront either Kevin or Ruby about these videos and what was going on?
I mean, personally, I didn't agree with the parenting styles that I saw in there. And I did tell Kevin, I said, listen, some of the stuff that you're posting, as you're sure you're aware, is part of the issue here that's causing, some of the anger and the threats. There's a fine line as a private investigator of, obviously, I'm not going to tell him how to run his business or do that. I do want to make clear, though, that, during the entire course of my investigation, I had no insight or idea that there was truly any abuse of children going on. Had no contact with them. I did drive outside of the home because I was trying to kind of do an evaluation from a physical security standpoint, but was not aware clearly of everything that's coming out now. And personally, I wasn't a big fan of the videos. I didn't agree with them. But my focus and role of what they hired me for was clearly to protect the family and to identify who was threatening their family.
When you told Kevin that these videos might be creating this danger, what did he respond to that?
If I recall, there wasn't a lot of, I think he acknowledged it, but there wasn't really an in-depth conversation about the content itself. I just wanted to hear Kevin, in my opinion, that, this was the reason why I felt they were receiving a lot of these threats, was the controversial aspects of some of the videos that they were posting.
I mentioned text messages. I mean, did they receive angry text messages? Did they receive phone calls from strangers? And if so, any idea how people got their contact information, or is this not true? They didn't receive this.
I don't recall in terms of whether they were receiving text messages or phone calls, but it's also very easy to get phone numbers nowadays online, and that's not that difficult to do.
Yeah.
So
let me ask you this: you mentioned the person who showed up in the middle of the night at their door. Walk us through what this person was dressed like, what you saw. Did they say anything? I mean, what was the circumstances of that?
So they were dressed in a sweatshirt that was basically, wrapped tightly around their face with really big glasses, so it kind of disguised them. It appeared to me in the video that it was a female, and I'd have to say maybe in their late 20s. And then all they did was ring the doorbell, and then run back to the car and drive away.
What made?
I'm sorry, but that's funny. I'm sorry. I'm over here laughing so hard. I've already heard this once and I'm dying again. Like, this lady is complaining. She's getting a PI involved, the police involved, because some people are sending her some like emails that she doesn't want. And someone knocked and ran at her door. Like, one person, one night. I mean, it's insanity to me that she thought she was being harassed, but it's okay to starve your kids, deplete them of, nutrition, those things, by taking your kids' bed away, their privacy, all that stuff. So
did you think that was concerning or threatening, besides wrapping the clothing over the face? Any other indication that this person might have been a danger?
It just was in conjunction with some of the other threats that they were receiving. So it was kind of more of a timing issue, versus a prank, right? In the middle of the night with the kids. But, again, not knowing who that person was, or it was just a different element of concern.
Right.
Just more from a timing perspective.
So just to clarify, you're saying, was anybody ever identified as threatening or harassing the Frankies? Was any no charges were ever brought? Was anybody identified where charges ever brought, or no?
Yeah, that I'll have to defer to the police department. I had presented them all the evidence, given them the IP addresses. Had they subpoenaed the company records, they would have been able to identify who those were, and I don't know if that ever happened.
Why do you think Kevin Franke said to you, and maybe you saw it yourself, that the police were not that helpful to them?
So in talking with the detective at the time, I recall that in my opinion, I felt that they were actively working the case. I don't think that they ignored it. I just think that sometimes they had to prioritize what they felt were more higher priority cases in terms of how quickly they could do their investigations. I think that my role in coming in maybe helped spur things a little bit quicker through the process, but ultimately the district attorney is the one that decides whether or not to charges, not law enforcement. Right. And that was how that ended.
You had mentioned you had never seen any abuse, any indications of it. You hadn't really been in the house. You didn't get a chance to even speak to the kids. Were you around when the whole issue with the Child Protective Services was happening, when police were coming to the house at all to find out what was going on with the family and the kids?
No, and I actually was not aware of any of that during the course of my investigation. Law enforcement also had never mentioned that to me.
Talking about the current case against Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrand, have you been contacted by law enforcement?
I have not, no.
When this broke about this, what was your initial reaction?
I mean, probably like most, extremely disturbed, as you listen to that 911 call and how emotional that man felt. I think it probably, everybody felt some heartstrings pulling for those kids and what they were enduring. And then it obviously caused me to go back to then, I mean, I did a lot of these cases, right? So at the time, and there wasn't anything really major that stuck out, but I did go back, read some of the case notes, and really, go back and understand, were there things there that that maybe would have led to that. And the only thing that I could think of were, again, those videos that I saw that, again, I found a little troubling. I didn't agree with, but I personally didn't feel what I was seeing on the video would meet the legal elements of what would be considered child abuse, even though I didn't agree with the parenting styles that they were doing.
Looking back, the fact that they didn't allow you in the home to see the kids, what do you think about that now?
Yeah, when I paused on that, I did at the time think that was a little odd, because I would typically meet in person with clients. So I did find that a little odd, but at the time, I guess I didn't. I just felt that maybe he was a private person and, was in the public eye. And so I kind of respected that element of it.
And you never got a sense about, did you think it was strange that your contact was only with Kevin and not with Ruby?
I mean, at the time, it's not uncommon to just have one spouse take the role and dealing with a particular case. So I didn't think it was too, I didn't think it was too strange. I can legitimately say that I felt that Kevin was truly concerned for the safety and well-being of his family in my conversations with him, and that was my initial thoughts and feelings about it.
Well, I like your perspective then, because it was a few weeks ago that we had the opportunity to interview Kevin Franke's attorney. And his attorney said that Kevin had no idea that this abuse was happening. He said that Kevin hadn't even been in the home, that he and Ruby agreed that he shouldn't see the children. They had been separated for 13 months. I was questioning him. How is it possible that Kevin didn't even speak to his children for that long and didn't know what was going on? What's your opinion after knowing Kevin Franke and speaking with him and working with him about this idea that he had no idea what was going on, and he was separated from his wife and didn't even have the opportunity to speak to his kids about what was happening?
Well, that's a tough one, right? Because there's only three people that really know what happened. That's Kevin, his wife, and the children. So it's
well, let's be fair. I mean, he's not been criminally charged, and he wasn't there at the crime scene. It was Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrand. It seems that he wasn't living with them, but it's so interesting to me that he was separated for this amount of time. There was an issue in the family, and yet he didn't know what was happening to his kids for this amount of time. That's the part that just, I think, rubs some people the wrong way.
And I understand that. I mean, he was very involved in the children's lives. So it would be hard for me to understand as well, that he wasn't aware of some of the issues that might have been going on there. And of course, not privy to why the separation happened or any of that. I haven't spoken to Kevin since the case ended, or Ruby. So, it's obviously, it does pose a lot of questions and concerns out there for sure. For me personally, it's a very troubling case, just being a father myself. Having the thought of any children, going to that level or kind of abuse is horrendous. And, if it's proven to be true, I feel like accountability to the fullest extent of the law needs to be handed out. I mean, that's my personal feeling on that.
Yeah, and we know that he is also seeking custody of his 4 young children, the 2 adults. He has 2 adult children, but he's seeking custody of his 4 young children. When you were working with them, did you ever speak to neighbors, friends, family members, anybody that knew about the Frankes, anybody that told you anything about them that maybe looking back, you think, that's a little concerning?
No, in this case, I didn't find any relevance to neighbors or friends. It was really just trying to identify who the individuals were that were harassing and making threats, and to really get law enforcement a little more engaged in the investigation of it.
Right.
That was really my focus of the case. So I did not talk to anyone else on that.
David Corrington, he played a very interesting role in this story, and appreciate you taking the time and coming here on Sidebar to talk a little bit more about it. Thank you so much, sir.
All right. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Didn't sound like he knew much of anything, but you know. So they hired a private investigator, which was that guy, and they hired him because they were getting harassed, they said. And the way they were getting harassed was people were sending them unwanted emails. What? We all get them. I get 50 of those a day. Actually, I get way more than that, probably. I don't check my email very often, as y'all know. I try to, but I don't sometimes. Also, there was something else I was going to say something about that. Oh, how did Kevin not know what she was doing? How did he not talk to his kids for that long? I can't wrap my head around it. I just can't. But the next thing I wanted to show you was there's like a 1 minute, sorry, there's like a 1 minute clip. And it is body cam footage of Kevin when the officers come and give him some belongings that he wanted back from the home. So he hadn't been there for 13 months, but all of a sudden he shows up and he's like, oh, need all my stuff, and wants to get his daughter into trouble. So, yeah. So let's see here. You'll hear it here. You'll hear it in this clip. He literally is wondering why Shari, his daughter, because that's who was in possession of all the items, why she's not being charged with robbery right now. So let me play this for you guys real quick.
There you go. Is it all there?
Yes.
And mind you guys, I forgot to tell you this part. The stuff that he's upset that she had, it was like cameras, I believe, like iPads, I think a MacBook, things of that nature where you could, journals, things that would hold like all your little secrets, maybe, all of your little secrets would be in there. So that's what I think why he flew back. He was like, nope, I need in that house and I need these items. And it looks like he's living out of his car to the looks of it, but it's just me.
Yeah, explain to me again why this was not robbery.
Because it's a civil issue. It's you guys are family. She's been in the house before. You haven't been in the house in a year. She had interest in the items. She didn't take them with the intention to deprive you of them. So that's the theft code. We have to prove intent to deprive you of the items. And that wasn't her intent in having them. So the detective sergeant said that we're not going to charge her for anything.
Okay.
Exactly, Susan. Yep.
We'll have to do some more research on that.
You're welcome to do that. You're going to follow up with their detective yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll be here on Tuesday. His name's Sergeant McCoy. Okay. You're welcome. Take care.
I thought I was on the screen this whole time. I thought I was right here. He literally says, this isn't how are we not charging for a robbery, or how is this not a robbery? What? Are you kidding? It's your child. First off, like, and mind you, this was 2 days after Ruby was arrested. So this was on 9/1/2023. So he literally just finds out that Ruby's getting arrested for 6 counts of child, A. And instead of maybe going and getting his kids or going to find out what's going on with them, or maybe his oldest kids reconnecting with them, he's at the police station filing a police report saying, nope, robbery. Like, are you kidding? 2 days. Not even 2 days. I wonder what time I don't know military. Well, and I think it's just 2:59 in the afternoon, actually. Or no, it's not. It's military time. I don't know military time, or I would tell you exactly how many hours. But that's insanity to me. So that was one of the body cam footage videos that I wanted to show you. And then the next body cam comes from when the other 2 children that weren't at Jody Hildebrand's house when they were located. The officers were out like looking for them. So they located them at this lady's house named Pam. And Pam's a little different. Pam's said that the kids were with her, that they were helping her do some cleaning. Because that's what kids do when you bring them over to babysit them. You make them clean. That's a good idea. That's a pretty good idea. So she was making them clean, having them clean. And she didn't want to let them leave the house because, they were still cleaning. But she's connected with Connections. She is part of Connections and it's on their website. So I don't know why she's acting like she don't really know. But she's connected with Jody somehow. And with Ruby, obviously, because she had Ruby's kids. So I'm going to play this from this. This is like a local station, I think. So I'm going to play this one. And then I'll play this last video that I have from Law and Crime that kind of goes over all of the last 2 body cams. Because that's a mess of it in its own. I don't know who would say, call the cops on my daughter. She just stole from me. Other than if it was a real theft, and not 2 days after your wife is in jail for CA. That's insanity to me. That's just, Yeah, Ruby's in jail. She has no bond. So she'll be in there for a little while. But if you guys don't mind just taking a second to hit the like on the video, if you do appreciate the coverage. If you guys are new here, I'm Tanya or TitaniumBuilt. You can call me either or. If you guys want to join our channel membership, I will put the link in the chat in just a moment. We'd love to have you. It's a good way to support the channel and the creator. And if you do appreciate the content, hopefully you guys will subscribe to the channel. So.
Here's what we're talking about. New body camera video from American Fork Police shows how officers were able to locate 2 of Ruby Franke's children on the day of her arrest in southern Utah. From our previous reporting, we were the very first to tell you how officers scoured Utah County that day looking for 2 of Ruby Franke's children after the other 2 were located in southern Utah in or near Jody Hildebrand's Ivan's home, malnourished and emaciated. The video we're about to show you is from the home of a 3rd member of Hildebrand's business. It's called Connections Classroom. Although American Fork Police redacted this video, we spent a lot of time today, took some additional steps to ensure the privacy of the children involved.
We had a agency assist out of St. George and Springville.
On August 30th, American Fork Police responding to the home of Pam Botcher to try and locate 2 of Ruby Franke's children the day Ruby and Jody Hildebrand were taken into custody in southern Utah.
Just put your hands in front of you, okay? Just going to place you temporarily under arrest.
In 2 body camera videos obtained by 2 News, officers placed Botcher in handcuffs and took her to the back of a patrol car and waited for Springville police to arrive.
There's a report taken into state custody. A couple of them have been found, yet malnourished and bound.
In the meantime, officers tried to get a better understanding of the situation, which spans from Utah County to Washington County.
Is Ruby Franke's daughter.
Okay.
She's a friend of ours. She comes over and helps me every once in a while to do cleaning and stuff.
Because she knows her mom. She's very good friends with her. Has known her for a long, long time.
Pam was handcuffed for roughly 50 minutes. That's when Springville police officers started speaking with her about the Franke children.
So my friend called me and said, hey, I have a family emergency. I'm going to St. George.
A DCFS worker arrives as officers try to clarify a time frame from when Ruby Franke called Pam and apparently told her where she could find the 2 children spread across Utah County.
Ruby contacted you around noon and said that they had
around it. I don't know if that's exactly.
Minutes later, the DCFS worker asks how Pam knows the family, to which she confirmed our reporting about how Ruby, Jody Hildebrand, and Pam all worked through Jody's business.
How did you start to know the family? How did you meet?
The Franke family?
Yeah.
Through a program called Connections. It's a kind of a life skills type of thing.
Pam walked with the officers and DCFS worker back to the front of their home, where they told the children that they were either to stay with their older sister or be placed into state custody with a foster family.
You want to go get your stuff? You guys come and get your stuff.
During the entire 90-minute stretch of when officers arrived to when the 2 children were placed in state custody, officers had a really difficult time getting information about the situation and relaying that debaucher, her husband and others involved. For example, there are even mentions in this body camera of Ruby and her husband in custody at that time. To our knowledge, Kevin Franke was not in custody that day. Here's another clip from the interaction between officers and Pam trying to make sense of all of this.
So just to make sure I'm understanding all this correctly, Ruby contacted you around noon and said that they had an
around, I don't know if that's
short.
exact.
That's your best guess.
Said she had a family emergency.
And need you to pick up the girls.
Yeah, she said, would you mind watching the girls while I'm gone? Because she was leaving. I said, yeah, I could do that because I need some help cleaning.
Okay, and then did you say to bring them to your house for today and then take it back home tonight, or to keep them here for a couple days?
She didn't say. I was just planning on bringing them home tonight.
Shortly after, the DCFS worker comes over to ask Pam about how she really knows Ruby Franke. She brings up the business Connections Classroom. That's the business Jody Hildebrandt ran. We've done a lot of coverage on this. Here's the interaction when asking how Pam knows Ruby Franke.
What type of things do they do with the program?
It's like life skills. Like,
can you tell me, does this woman look like, I mean, I don't need to be, I'm not trying to judge anybody by their appearance at all, because look at your girl over here. But does this woman look like she should be teaching life skills to somebody? She's in the back pretty much of a cop cruiser with her sunglasses on her head. Looks like her hair hasn't been washed in 4 days. I'm just asking. Would you guys take life lessons from her? I wouldn't. She said it's kind of like life lessons. What? No, it's kind of like a cult, and you guys tell people to have put their self into the trust system and all that. No, we're cool over here. Trust circle.
learning how to,
How is she the president? She can't even spell president of Connections. Someone give me that one.
It's like be honest, responsible, and humble. Those are those 3 pillars of their program.
Is there like a meeting place for you guys met, or is it kind of a virtual
No,
thing?
it's online every Saturday morning. It's called Empowering Joy.
Okay. How long have you known them for?
Oh, geez.
Ish.
Probably, I don't know. Let's see. I mean, I didn't know her really well because she was in the program, but I didn't really know her. But I've known her probably really well, maybe 3 years.
Is this like a program that she started, or is it just one that
she's just a part of it?
She's just part of it.
No mention of Jody. You may remember from my conversation with Jesse Hildebrandt about a month ago. Pam and Jody have been friends for a very long time. We've been covering the 8 passengers case extensively over the past few months. A number of folks have been speaking to those who say they have been impacted by this in some way. And it may have been a while since we've talked to one of those individuals because the courts have really quieted down. Be sure to check out
that lady, something else. Lady, something else. That's what I said, Marianne. They have, like, I knew about this before this case even came into the mainstream, or before the child abuse allegations were brought to. I used to watch, I still watch him, Marky, but he does stuff over like family channels and those kind of like, just like family kind of stuff. And I watch him because, like, when I get off my live, sometimes I just want to listen to something that's not true crime, because I've listened to true crime like all day. So I'll listen to him because he's like, I don't know, I like his accent. So he was bringing it up like last year saying that, and this was actually older videos that he has too from like 2020 saying that there was people that were wanting to, they had like 17,000 or 18,000 signatures trying to get CPS to come and like get involved and to get the authorities involved, and nobody did anything. They had that many signatures. That is insanity to me, that you can have that many people rally together and nothing was done. 6 children were let down. All 6 of them kids were let down. And that's terrible. And I know that Shari's been like at odds with her family for the last like 2 years since she's been 18 and been able to be out of the house, or maybe 3 years. So, and I know she's, I think, fighting to get the kids too. Hopefully she'll get them. It's terrible. That lady, I don't think that I mean, she's the president, I guess, of Connections, but I don't know. Oh no, I know the Ace Family too. I only know family channels from that Marky Guy's channel. It's really weird. Like, I don't ever watch family channels. Because I mean, I don't know. I'm not a family channel kind of gal. But that's probably because I don't have kids. But yeah, so I wonder what else. I think I heard it on another channel too. I'm trying to think of. Oh, I did. I can't think of her name though. It's, oh shoot, I can't remember. Let me see. Now it's gonna bother me. I think it's like Chelsea something. There's my subscriptions. Wait, CC Suarez. I think her first name's Chelsea though. But she talked about it too. She talks about it like in depth. So, hey, Hillbilly. I like your cat. Oh, that's a pretty cat. Oh, that's a pretty cat. 3 years, yeah. They've been at odds. Yeah. And it's been out there for that long. It's been out there for a long time. Like, I heard about the food, like the little girl when she was 6 years old, she forgot to pack her lunch or grab her lunch or whatever. And Ruby said she wasn't going to bring her lunch to school. Like, sorry, you're 6. You should have known better. I remember hearing that and I was like, what? And then I heard about the kids sleeping on the beanbag for 7 months. And I also heard about them I heard them taking Christmas away from the 2 youngest kids, and then making them watch all 4 of the older kids open up Christmas presents on Christmas morning. They said they were giving them love and truth for Christmas. I heard about all of that and I was like, what? And I just thought it was, when I first heard about it, it was right when I first started my YouTube channel. So I didn't really know a lot about YouTube. And I just thought it was like a YouTube thing. I was like, is that just like a YouTube thing? Are they like just doing this for like clicks and views? Because I didn't know why it wouldn't be taken care of, you know? But this was the last video I wanted to show you guys. Also, I looked from Ivings to St. George. And it looks like on my side anyway, it looks like it's like 16 to 18 miles. From Ivins, Utah to St. George, or I guess you can go the opposite way. But I think that maybe when they're talking about like when I don't know if Jody used to live in St. George, but I've just heard that a couple different times. I've heard it referred to with Ruby and then with Pam now. So I'm wondering if instead of them saying like I live in Ivings, they say St. George instead. I don't know why people would do that, but some people do that. Like they'll say they live like if the town's smaller, but this one looks like a big old, like a plain old town. So you guys let me know. I don't know. I was trying to figure it out though. And then this is going to talk about, you know, just what we were talking about, like the body cam and all of that stuff. This is a pretty good episode. I was watching it earlier. So I'm going to play this and then I'll be in the chat with you guys. And thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. And don't forget to smash that like button.
Why this was not robbery.
New police body cam video shows Ruby Franke's husband, Kevin, after her arrest, police storming the Franke home, and the recovery of 2 other Franke children. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, we've got some fascinating new body cam footage in the Ruby Franke case that we want to get into. So Franke, of course, is the former YouTuber who doled out parenting advice, only to now be charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse with respect to 2 of her young children. This happened after her children were found in the home of her business partner and now co-defendant, Jody Hildebrandt in Ivins, Utah. The son, who actually escaped the home and then ran to a neighbor who called 911, he was found emaciated with wounds and evidence that he'd been tied up. The daughter reportedly found in similar condition. We don't have official confirmation of that, but we do know that she was taken to the hospital to be treated for malnourishment. But now we want to get into this video, or these videos, I should say. So first of all, there is brand new video from police in Springville, Utah, that gives us a little bit of insight into how Ruby's husband, Kevin Franke, was acting after his estranged wife was arrested. So to help me talk about these videos, I want to bring in right now a special guest. I'm joined right now by Brian Schnee. who is an anchor and reporter from KUTV2 News. He has been covering the Ruby Franke case. And for anybody who's been following the Ruby Franke case, they should know Brian. Hey, Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Always happy to talk about something that has consumed my life for the last month and a half.
Yeah, it's consumed ours as well. We really do appreciate your reporting. It's been excellent. I want to start, though, with the Kevin Franke video. So give everybody a little context here. We know that Kevin started the 8 Passengers YouTube channel with Ruby in 2015. He documented their lives with the kids, offering advice on childcare, parenting. Kevin hasn't been criminally charged. As we found out from his attorney, Randy Kester, Kevin apparently been living apart for more than a year from Ruby. Didn't know that his kids were in Ivan's. So, Brian, before we get into this video, can you walk us through the context of what we are about to see here?
So, Kevin fits into this very uniquely, right? We're still trying to figure out Kevin's involvement in all of this. It's a very unique situation as it pertains to his marriage with Ruby, as you mentioned. There's the at least information out there that they haven't been living together in that Springville home for at least a year. It is mentioned in this body camera video too, which is only about 2 minutes long. We obtained the body camera video from Springville. It shows Kevin getting items back. These items were in question roughly a day or two after they went to that Springville home to look for the 2 outstanding children that they couldn't figure out their whereabouts after Ruby Franke was taken into custody.
Okay, so with all that in mind, you're going to see it's really, really fascinating here because after Ruby was arrested, he files this report to police saying that his home had been burglarized, some items were missing, and it turns out that Kevin and Ruby's adult daughter, Shari, was the one who took some items from the home, seemingly for safekeeping, returned the items back to police. Now let's take a listen to what Kevin had to say as to those items given back to him.
There you go. Is it all there?
Yes. Yeah, explain to me again why this was not robbery.
Because it's a civil issue. It's you guys are family. She's been in the house before. You haven't been in the house in a year. She had interest in the items. She didn't take them with the intention to deprive you of them. So that's the theft code. We have to prove intent to deprive you of the items. And that wasn't her intent in having them. So the detective sergeant said that we're not going to charge her for anything.
Okay. I'll have to do some more research on that.
You're welcome to do that. If you want to follow up with our detective yourself.
Yeah, he'll be here on Tuesday. His name's Sergeant McCoy. Okay. You're welcome. Take care.
All right. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Kevin still asks, how is this not warrant a robbery or a theft charge? To which the officer then has to explain, hey, this doesn't warrant theft because there was no depriving of these items. Shari brought them back, as we understand it, rather quickly. I think the items are the really interesting part, though. What do they entail? There were cameras, there were tablets, there were journals, passports for Kevin, Ruby, and Chad, who is the other, adult child for Ruby Franke. So I thought it was all really interesting about that interaction. Mind you, this is still really fresh in this case. So this video happens just 48 hours basically after Ruby's taken into custody. I can only imagine what's going through Kevin's mind at this point.
Yeah, and assuming again that he had no idea what was happening here, that's a lot to take in, and it's hard to blame him for some of the ways he's been acting. But I do want to ask you the items. Any idea why Shari would have taken these specific items?
No, and the thing that's interesting is if you read some of the other reports from Springville, the day we got the reports about what really took place that day, the following day, and then the third day in question, which is when Kevin got those items back and reported that burglary, we're trying to figure out what other items were really taken from the home. As we understand it, the second day, so the day directly after Ruby was taken into custody, they went to that Springville home with a DCFS worker, with Shari, with, as they described it, other family members. Police were there to supervise, and basically was to make sure Kevin wasn't there. I'm curious what other items were taken, because the whole goal was to get the personal items for the children, 4 children. It's not clear what she wanted from those items. However, if you spin through some of the comments, yes, I read them, by the way, for those out there that are watching. It's interesting that, you know, what is on those tapes? What are on those cameras? What are in those journals? I think everyone wants to know.
All right, we want to thank Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring this video. You know, life's scary, minding your own business when it seems that everyone and everything, no matter where you turn, seems to want to hurt you. Okay. It's interesting, obviously.
I wonder how much they're paying Jesse for those commercials he's putting in the things, because they're making me laugh. They make me laugh.
Obviously, we're coloring it with the idea of look
He
what
doesn't,
he's
though.
discovering in the course of those 2 days, but also the idea that seemingly he was surprised charges are not being brought against his daughter. It makes you wonder about the relationship, which we know Shari, one of the adult children, had called 911 in 2022. She had heard that her siblings were being left home alone. It seemed that she cared about them. There seemed to be a falling out between Shari and her parents. What can you tell us there?
The family dynamic is really interesting. I mean, we're not truly sure about all of the events in the timeline, right, of how everything played out. But so much of these kids' lives were put out there for the world to see. So you have to imagine there's probably some level of trauma there, some sort of thing that is sticking with, especially those two adult children, Shari and Chad. It's really unclear how they're gelling together now, because just earlier this week, they all walked into court together and there were smiles.
Right.
There was even a little bit of laughter. And I didn't expect that. We had a different reporter down there in Provo, which is just south of Salt Lake City. For those of you that don't live in Utah, it's not far, but that's the site where a lot of the child welfare case is being handled, which is sealed. So we're outside. We see them all walk down the steps. I think everyone was surprised, especially after we put this body camera video out there that confirms the police reports that Kevin wanted to press some sort of charges, or at least look into charges against Shari for taking those items initially. The family dynamic is very interesting. And I don't know if we'll ever really know the nuts and bolts, the nitty gritty of just how deep this goes. But from the exterior, whether this was a planned thing from Kevin's attorney and Shari's attorney, they all walked down the steps together and it looked like a lovely family sight.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I read through Kevin Franke's attorney, Randy Castor, that apparently there is some sort of reconciliation between Kevin and Shari. You saw that, right?
We saw that, and that's also what Kevin's attorney, Randy, said to me after I reached out to him about this body camera video. I told him, hey, we have this interaction. We have these police reports. Is there something you'd like to share with me? Because this is after I had an interview scheduled with Randy, and he pushed it to the side because of the child welfare case.
Do you think Shari actually really knows that what her dad said on that body cam? Because I don't think she did. I don't think she knew the other day when they were in court. She probably found out like the rest of us did, you know, a couple of days ago. But they had went to court on like the 5th or something, or was it the 11th? They went to court like before this came out. So I think if she was listening to that body cam video and she heard her dad say, this isn't a robbery, how is this not a robbery? Then I'm pretty sure she'd have a little bit of a different feeling about her father, because I would. I wouldn't be nice. But then again, maybe she's trying to play this card so she can see her brothers and sisters. You never know.
And we haven't been able to reschedule. So he did send me a couple sentences that we did share in our coverage. They said, hey, they're working on these bygones, as he described it. They're trying to basically mend this relationship. And whether it's happened so quickly in a matter of days or weeks, I don't know. But at least it was on display earlier this week when the whole family, at least Kevin, Shari, and Chad, all came together.
Right.
As it pertains to those 4 children. And by the way, Ruby was also there that day. We didn't see her, but we do know that she was transported from Washington County, which is in southern Utah, hours away, mind you, up to Utah County, being held on a hold for that hearing. So in theory, you'd have to imagine basically most of the family was there that day.
Dynamic, a lot different than it was maybe a year ago or 2 years ago. Okay, let's move on to the other videos here, because I think they're fascinating as well. So there is this other body cam video. It's from Springville Police, and it's after the kids, the 2 children, are found in Ivins. Police then swarmed the Ruby Franke family home, making sure that none of the Franke children were there.
You two stay on that corner. Police department!
So, Brian, according to police, the Springville home was empty. What do we know about that? Not a raid, but swarming to try to check in. Where are the kids?
So to be clear with you, we at KUTV didn't have that exact body camera video of Springville breaking the door open, going into the home and looking throughout. I know the video you're talking about, though. We know that they tried to look in the windows. They tried to see if anybody was home, and they had a search warrant, as we've seen. I haven't seen the search warrant because it's part of the sealed documents, but it is out there somewhere. And they went into the home, obviously didn't find anything, which really set off a kind of countywide search for these two children, which involved Springville reaching out to other agencies. And that's where this nearly 3-hour-long body camera lives that we put out there recently from American Fork, which is basically a neighboring town, which is where they ultimately found those two children in the homes of another individual.
Let's talk about that. So police later located Franke's other children at the home of another woman with connections to Jody Hildebrandt's business. Her name is Pam Botcher in American Fork, Utah, as you said. And the American Fork police.
That was Pam. Pam looks a little different when Pam's got a little makeup on. Hold on a second, a little bit there, Pam. Okay, Pam must have been a little West. I think you're right. Or whoever said, is she hungover? I can't remember who said that. But whoever said that, maybe you were right. Maybe she was a little hungover when she was talking to the cop, because this looks like a different person. Isn't that crazy, though? A little bit of makeup, a little bit of hair stuff will do you.
Business. Her name is Pam
Botcher
scary. In American Fork, Utah, as you said. And the American Fork police, they put Botcher in handcuffs. They lead her to the back of a police car while they waited for the Springville police to arrive.
She's Frankie's daughter.
Okay.
She's a friend of ours. She comes over and helps me every once in a while to do cleaning and stuff.
Because she knows her mom. She's very good friends with her. Has known her for a long, long time.
Brian, what do you make of that?
Well, that's one clip of nearly 3 hours that I combed through the other day. So I can say it's definitely one that stands out. What's interesting about Pam, we put out some reporting on Pam early on in this. We noticed that she was on the Connections Classroom website. When I spoke with Jesse Hildebrandt over a month ago now, Jesse told me about Pam and how that fits into all of this. So it was only a matter of time before we found out more information about Pam. Pam has not been arrested. Pam has not been charged. She is not in any of the documents pertaining to this as far as court proceedings that we see publicly right now. But that's where the children were located that day. Pam, as far as we understand it, started off as a family friend of Jody Hildebrandt's. She mentions in this body camera, I've known Ruby about 3 years or so. She was just a member of Connections. Pam really in this clip couldn't answer what Connections is, which I think a lot of people found interesting considering she's listed on that website, which I believe is still active, as president of the Connections Foundation. So it wasn't, all of it was life skills, right? That's kind of where she kept going to.
Let's play that real quick. So again, this is her talking. Again, she's a team member on the Connections Classroom website. This is her briefly explaining that.
How did you start to know the family? How did you just meet?
The Franke family?
Yeah.
Through a program called Connections.
Okay.
It's a kind of a life skills type of thing.
Yeah, Brian, like you said, it's not entirely clear what Connections is.
Yeah, it's very interesting because she's clearly been involved in Connections for a while. I mean, at least 5, 6, 7 years. We've gone through some of the tax filings. We've kind of looked at these things because Connections Foundation was a spinoff from Connections Classroom, classified as a nonprofit organization, so they could accept charitable donations and such. The whole thing is very interesting about how the DCFS worker asks Pam about Connections. And to me, I'm watching this, I go, oh, please ask one more question. Please ask one more question.
It's the reporter in you.
Further.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm hoping for that one moment where we go, oh, it all makes sense now. But to get back to your original point, it's very interesting when you see Pam's husband say, oh, I don't really know Ruby. Pam knows her. And I think there's that interesting divide between maybe what we're seeing with some of the people involved in this case is maybe they're not sharing as much with some of the people even closest to them as you'd like to think that's involved in a family dynamic.
That's so interesting. And yeah, look, when we interviewed Randy Kester, I recall him saying that seemed to suggest that there was a manipulation going on the part of putting the blame on Jody Hildebrand and how that changed the family dynamic of the Frankies. I want to continue on with this, though. So in this video, police officers and DCFS, Department of Child and Family Services, they kind of had a hard time figuring out exactly where all the children were and when.
So just to make sure I'm understanding all this correctly, Ruby contacted you around noon and said that they had an
around it. I don't know if that's
Sure.
exact.
That's your best guess.
Said she had a family emergency.
And needed you to pick up the girls.
Yeah, she said, would you mind watching the girls while I'm gone? Because she was leaving. I said, yeah, I could do that because I need some help cleaning.
Okay, and then did you say to bring them to your house for today and then take it back home tonight, or to keep them here for a couple days?
She didn't say. I was just planning on bringing them home tonight.
So, Brian, what is your reaction to that response? And how do we know what all ended up happening with respect to the children that were at Botcher's residence?
It's interesting because Botcher mentions cleaning about 1,000 times in this 3 video. They were here to clean. They were here to clean up. We have visitors coming into town. It's very interesting that I kept going back to that subject. She did talk about a number of things they did that day. I mean,
Somebody name a 14 and 16-year-old girl, 14 and 16-year-old that would like to clean someone's house. I'll wait. I mean, really, when I was 14 and 16, I couldn't even put a dish in the dishwasher correctly, my mom said, let alone go to some stranger's house and clean it. That sounds like, that's some crazy stuff right there. That's like, here, borrow my kids to do your chores.
and she said that Ruby asked her to pick up her children. She explained where they were. We haven't been putting out the locations for the security of the children. I mean, they work in the community and we're trying to be respectful of that. And they were, she picked them up in one town. Then she drove to another town. Then they went to go get ice cream or some snack of some sort. Then they came back and spent the afternoon and started cleaning the house. And as they describe in this video, then they were going to go pick some tomatoes and make salsa. Like it was this very wholesome, like family thing going on there. And I think what we make of this is how much of it is truly forthcoming, right? How much of it is just kind of surface level stuff? And did Pam at that time know what was happening to Ruby? I mean, a family emergency is about as blanket statement as you can imagine, right? I'd imagine if these two were friends or pretty close and you're taking in my children, maybe at some point in that quick phone call is, hey, some of my children are in trouble. I might be in trouble. I mean, I'm just curious to know if any of that was ever mentioned in the text messages or the phone call between Ruby and Pam as it pertained to the well-being of her other children.
And we know that the two girls at that home and the two children that were found, they were all taken into state custody. And that's now being separated and litigated on a separate kind of case. In terms of Ruby and Jody, you've been following it. What is next for the case? What can we expect in the weeks or months to come? And what are you looking out for?
I've been constantly reaching out to both attorneys, right? So Lamar Windward, the attorney for Ruby Franke, and Doug Terry, the attorney for Jody Hildebrand. We're about 4.5, 5 hours from them physically here in Salt Lake City to St. George. In our TV market, we do cover the whole side, the whole state. It's very taxing when you put the mileage on, but it's one of those things that we've just kind of been waiting. At last we heard October 5th. It is now much later in October, still no scheduled court hearing, still no, next step in the very long process. As you know, in the line of work that you do, these can take years to finally come to fruition. Oh, I was very surprised because I figured that we would at least have something on the calendar now. As we stand today, there is a court hearing on the calendar for Ruby Franke. It's coming up next month, but it has to do with a speeding infraction in Ivins, Utah, about 6 days before all of this went down, maybe 5 days. I was surprised to see, of all things, that's on the calendar right now, but not this higher profile, nationwide, worldwide conversation about what is happening with these child abuse allegations against this very high profile YouTuber and her business partner that has this very interesting business dynamic relationship thing. I think we're all just waiting to see what happens next. I've been asking those questions, haven't been getting a lot of answers, to be very frank with you.
I will tell you, though, I encourage everybody to check Brian out because your reporting on this has been tremendous. And we're always trying to learn a little bit more details through the cracks. Even if there's not an official court hearing, we are learning new details. So Brian Schnee, anchor reporter from KUTV 2 News. I encourage everybody to check him out. Brian, thanks so much for taking the time. We really do appreciate it.
I thought that was a pretty good interview. Yeah, I don't think that Ruby's going to be able to last years in a jail to wait to go to trial. But I don't know how long they'll. I think they'll probably push this along pretty quickly, hopefully. But I don't know because it's 6 counts and they have 6 children. I don't know what the statute of limitations on child abuse is. I don't know if they're like. I'm assuming that there's a statute, but I just don't know what it is. I mean, I know there is. But if it's, let's say it's 5 years, their oldest 2 children, like their oldest 2, could even probably come back and say that they were abused. Their son is 18 now. And when he was 16, he was sleeping on his, like a beanbag or something. When he was like, what was it, 15 or 16? So, I mean, right there, it's only a few years. You never know. No, Arlene was like, wow, am I the only one who had so much responsibility? You probably did, yeah. My mom, I'm not lying when I tell you, my mom said I couldn't even load the dishwasher right. But we all have OCD in my family, and it's real bad. And the older you get, that's when you get it. I didn't realize. I didn't have it when I was younger. I didn't care. Now it's like, oh man, it's bad. It's just always, everything else has a spot. And I think that's because I'm blind though in one eye too. And I run into stuff a lot more than I'd like to admit. But I think that's all I really have for you guys for tonight. I just wanted to get us, caught up with Ruby Franke, Frankie. I know I'm going to say, if I say Frank, I'm sorry, y'all. I think that E on the end, I've heard so many people call her Frank too, like before this case, like other people that talk about the family channel. So now I don't know. I'm all mixed up. Mine too, Ashley. She said my OCD is a result of trauma and PTSD. Mine is too. I think that's where a lot of OCD comes from, is trauma. I think my brother's came from that too. Because like he had it when he was a teenager. I have it now. It's a terrible thing. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And it's not like, oh, there's a crooked picture, let me fix it. Because I don't care about no damn crooked picture. My whole life is a crooked picture. It's like, what can I fix now? I'm like, I'm always doing something. Today I was, if this will make you kind of laugh, I was like sorting toothpicks into this like clear container I have. And I was like so impressed with my work because it literally took me like 5 minutes to do this. And nobody comes to our house to see it but me. It just makes me feel good. And as soon as I was getting ready to put them back, they fell all in the sink. There was like 500 of them in there. And I was like, are you kidding me? It wasn't really 500. It was like 100 of them, but it was a lot. It made me feel bad for myself. I was like, really? So then I just did it again. But those are things that you do when you have OCD. And I think it's like ADHD too. You get caught up into doing something. It's not even the fact that it has to be like straight. It's just the fact that you just want to do it, I feel like. And I'm going to tell you guys this before you leave. If you have OCD, what's wrong with us giving into our urges? I'm not hurting anybody, making sure that things are tidy. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I'm not hurting anybody. So why do people keep telling me how to change it? Because I'm cool. I like things tidy. Oh, thanks, Marianne. You're so sweet. Have you done a show on your accident, how you felt about getting back to meeting men again, etc.? Oh, Marianne, I did kind of do some stuff over those, but maybe I should do another one. Maybe I should do like a live or something over it. That would be could do a live and just talk about it. Yeah, I'm not hurting no one, Marianne, over here with my OCD. But I do talk about, I have talked on my channel about my accident. Like if you go back to my old videos, I have old videos. Like if you go to videos, like on my tab and you go to like oldest, I still have my first video I've ever uploaded. I've only privated one video, and that's only because it was a video I made over someone else. It wasn't like a bad video. It was just like it was over someone's injuries. And then I didn't, do injuries really on my channel. So I just took that one off. but all my old videos are still up there. Back when I first had these little twinkle lights behind me and I was talking about Kylie Rodney sitting on the floor. That was how I started my true crime journey. But I have like a bunch from when I was in the hospital, and about I have a lot about trauma, like about my parents both passing away, how I felt about that happening. I have my car accident, like all the details of that and stuff. Yeah, I got a lot. I got a lot of stuff out there. I got a lot of videos. I've done over 400, like 437 or something lives. We've only been a channel for a year. How do I have more lives than there's days? We've done so many lives, but I love that. So if that's what you're into, don't forget to subscribe. We do, I do pre-recorded videos as well, but just not as many, but I usually put a couple out a week, 1 or 2 out a week. But I'm going to try to do some more pre-recordeds in my chair again. I'm going to go back to my chair. I don't know if it's going to be, it should be soon, because I'm just going to use my phone to record it. And until I get into the other room, and then we're going to have this, because it swivels my camera stand, and then I can move it and I can move the microphone. It'll be a lot easier for me to do my old style pre-recordeds where I can edit them, because I haven't been editing my videos in a year. Not one of them. So if you're watching them, that's one take, baby. That's one take. But I love you guys. Thank you guys for joining me tonight on the live. I'll keep you updated if we hear anything about Ruby Franke. I don't know, Frankie. I don't know if they're going to keep the court dates a secret, because they're keeping everything else sealed, but I'm sure that they'll probably get out. We'll probably know when they are. So I will see you guys all on the next live. Feel better, Ashley. Feel better. Feel better. I hope you guys aren't getting sick. I've had a toothache for like since Friday, and I'm terrified of the dentist. I'm going to go Wednesday morning, bright and early. Because I want to go to Ohio State. And if I go for their emergency, I can go at 6 in the morning or 6:30, and they let the first 10 to 15 people in. I just got to pray that they'll let me in. If not, I can go to this other place, but that's the place that wants to take like more than I need out. And I don't want to do that. I'm scared. So hopefully that won't happen. But I'll see you guys all on the next live. I will be live tomorrow at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I will see you guys all then. Bye, guys. Good night.